Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you can hear us loud and clear. My name's Alan Cowie. I'm from the New Anglia Growth Hub. In case you're new to us, we're a free and impartial business support service offering diagnostics, face-to-face advice, and we can also broker in specialist business support services. So first time we've run a webinar, so hopefully this goes smoothly. The reason we are doing this webinar is because you're all very busy people, and quite often time is limited, and you might not have the time to attend events and seminars and pick up this sort of information. So we thought we can give it to you through this webinar, and so you can you don't even have to leave your workplace. So the session's about 25 minutes. If I could kindly ask you to save questions till the end, and when we get to that point, there's a little button which says raise your hand, and if you press that, then you'll be able to ask a question. You can also use the chat box as well. Hopefully you can see that on the right hand side of the screen, and a copy of the presentation is also available as a PDF under the handout section. Thank you, Barclays, for sponsoring these webinars. We've had really excellent support from Barclays and indeed the other banks and the lenders, and we're all working much more closely together to ensure that businesses are getting a more joined up service, and it's really all about giving you the tools and information that you need in order to grow your business. Just if we move it on, I just want to show you what the upcoming schedule is. So we invite you to register for any of these sessions if you want to, and as I said, you can use those links as part of the handout PDF later on. So in this opening webinar today, we're looking at grants. That tends to be one of the topics that we're asked the most about. So hopefully you'll get some useful information that you can apply to your business, or if you're working with other businesses. So enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Dr. William Millar, who is one of our Growth Hub advisors. So over to you, William.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Alan. I'm assuming that everyone can hear me okay. So in this talk, I'm going to give you an overview of the grants that are currently available in the region. In the time we've got available, we can't do it in depth in every one, but the focus will be on commercial enterprises, businesses, rather than charities who have their own specific funding streams. And I'm not going to look at agriculture or forestry, who have also got their own specific funding streams, except insofar as where some of our grants touch that sector. So in terms of understanding who's here and why they're here, I could launch into my full Liam Neeson impersonation at this point and say, I don't know who you are and I don't know what you want, but you could be in one of these three categories. You could be from an enterprise and you're really just wanting to find out what grants are available and whether you can access them, or you could be from an organisation that's already providing support to enterprises and want to find out more about the grants. And if anything that we say sort of interests you, please contact the Growth Hub and we can tell you more and go into it in more depth, and we'll provide details for that later on in the webinar. And the final group is that you could be from a grant awarding body and you want to know if your scheme is mentioned. And it's really important to say at this point, if it isn't, please let us know as well, because it's important that we use as many modes of communication to get that information out to people. Now, we are aware, I should say at this point, that we are aware that there will be some schemes coming along which haven't yet been formally announced, and we'll give you details of how you can get more information about those when they happen later on. So what I'm aiming to cover is a bit about grants themselves and what they are in general, and try and demystify some of the grant process. And then I'll give you an overview of the key grants that are available and where to get more information about them. If all else fails, please contact the Growth Hub on the numbers on the screen or email us at that email address. So the first thing to say is, what is a grant? Well, a grant is an amount of money and it's given to a business for a specific project or purpose. And in those there are two words there. Given, it's given through a process, so it's awarded, and it's for a specific project or purpose. So that project has to be eligible to attract the grant. And some examples are, could be grants for energy efficiency. We have had in the region in the past grants for broadband connection, but they've now gone. Main grants are for capital investment, which lead to jobs. And there's a specific grant that provides for additional non-mandatory training for employees. Grants usually come from government, from the EU, from local councils, and indeed from charities. And in our case, the New Anglia LEP has also bid for money from the government, which it has won, and then it redistributes it through a grant awarding process, and we'll come to that in a moment or two. You won't need to pay a grant back, providing you stick with the rules of the grant and do what the grant has asked you to do. But grants rarely, if ever, pay for 100% of the project. So that means you will need to match the grant amount with your own eligible funds. And again, funds have to be eligible and they have to be available before the grant is awarded, so that the grant awarding body knows that you can complete the project. So that says that both the business and the project needs to be eligible. And grants are for projects in the future. They're not retrospective, so you can't do something, then realise that you were eligible for a grant and apply for it. It's always you have to apply for the grant for the project that you're going to do in the future. So in pictures down the left-hand side, just to make it clear, a grant isn't a gift. It's not just a sum of money given to people. There's a process that you have to go through. You have to be judged to be eligible for that grant, both in terms of the business and the project, and only after that judging has taken place, all the assessments have been done, is the grant awarded, and then you have to conform to the constraints and the rules of the grant itself in order to get it successfully awarded to you. So why are they awarded? Well, essentially, they're to help businesses invest and grow. And the way that growth is measured is typically by an increase in employment. Indeed, the New Anglia LEP wishes to create 95,000 new jobs by the year 2026, and its grant fund is there to help people, help businesses create those new jobs. Investment is usually a capital investment. That's money to buy a thing, something that you can stick a label on. It rarely, if ever, pays for working capital, things like salaries. So grants are awarded to businesses that need them. And the test for that is really, will the project complete without the grant? So if you can complete the project without the grant, then it says you don't really need that grant. There may be another business that's more worthy and more needy of that grant, and it's the one to be awarded to. Conversely, on the other side of that, a question that a business should always ask itself is, does it make sound business sense for me to apply for the grant? One shouldn't chase a grant in a business simply because it's there. Only apply for it if it fits within your business strategy and what you're doing makes sound business sense. Typically, there's a generic process that all grant applications follow, and it's usually a two-phase process. There's an initial eligibility assessment which is completed, and this is usually in the form of a short form that's completed, and it will ask about the project itself, or it will ask about the business itself, or it could ask for both of those. That then goes to the people who do the assessment to check that that project and that business is an eligible business to be awarded the grant, and grants are nearly always awarded to SMEs, and that's what we're talking about here. Assuming that the project is deemed to be eligible and the business is deemed to be eligible, then it will move to the full application phase. And the full application really asks for more information about the business and the business performance, both past and projected. And part of that process then is to complete a full assessment and look at the risk in awarding the grant to that business. And that's done because really the grant money is public money. It's raised from taxpayers ultimately, and people want to make sure that that money is being spent wisely. through the grant process. So assuming that everything is okay at that point, the assessment is a good one, then it will go to a panel, and that panel is an independent body, independent of the assessors, who know the strategy that the grant is seeking to follow, and they will make a decision. And their decision could be approval, fully approve the grant as requested. They could give it a conditional approval, that there may be some other information that they want, or some conditions that they want to put on the award of the grant, or in very rare cases they could reject it. Now hopefully those cases are rare, because by going through the eligibility assessment and the assessment and full application process, a grant really shouldn't get to the panel unless there's a fairly good and understood chance that it will be awarded. So that's what grants are. That's the typical process that they go through. Each grant application follows a different process in detail, but that's the generic process that it will follow. So what's available then in this region? Well, in terms of capital grants, we've got the Growing Business Fund from the New Anglia LEP, and that's a grant to support capital investment leading to new job creation. There is an ESIF growth program grant still open and still available, and that supports investments in new and existing rural micro and small businesses to help them grow and create jobs. LEADER is well established in Norfolk and North Suffolk, but it's just come into a fair part of Suffolk this year. And again, that's a capital grant aimed at growing the rural economy in the context of local priorities, and we'll talk a bit more about that later on. It covers most of Norfolk and Suffolk, but not all of it, and some of Essex. There's a specific grant called the Eastern Agritech Growth Initiative, and it's both a grant aimed at growth and an R&D grant aimed at the food production and agriculture production and research clusters. And then brand new off the shelf is the Business Energy Efficiency Anglia grant, which is all about helping businesses become more energy efficient. So there are a number of activities that are undertaken within that program, including a specific capital grant to help businesses. And then there's other support available. There's the Employer Training Incentive Pilot, ETIP, which provides support for additional training. UKTI provides help with exporting, not usually directly in the form of grant aid, but in terms of subsidised support. And then there are specialist areas such as R&D tax credits or Innovate UK, and we have some sessions scheduled on R&D tax credits later on in this series of webinars. So going through each one in a bit more detail. The Growing Business Fund awards grants of between £5,000 and £500,000, and the grant is up to 20% of the total project spend. So the minimum project size is around £25,000 on that basis. Essentially, one job has to be created for every £10,000 of grant funding that the business receives, or part of £10,000 that the business receives. So if the grant was £5,000, one would still be expected to create a full-time equivalent job. There are some ineligible sectors, and we'll see those in a moment. The grant must be spent on capital purchase, such as buildings, machines, and equipment, and we'll see that in a minute. Key thing is it mustn't displace other businesses, and again, if you want to know more, contact us in the Growth Hub. So looking a bit more detail in the Growing Business Fund, and indeed there will be a webinar on this topic next, and we'll give you details about that, where more details will be presented. But these are the eligible sectors here at the top and the ineligible sectors at the bottom. So the main focus is on building manufacturing and engineering, energy, biotech, ICT and agri-tech businesses, although other business sectors may be considered on their merits. But the bottom list are those that aren't eligible for that grant. And as well as eligible sectors, there are also eligible costs, and this table shows you the what are called the three different categories of cost. There are preferred project costs, which is the area in green. There are acceptable costs, which is the area in yellow, and then ineligible costs, the area in pink or red at the bottom. So a grant application may be made up of a mix of both preferred costs and acceptable costs, but the grant is usually only awarded to items which are in the preferred costs. So you couldn't have really a grant application made up of acceptable project costs in the majority and only a small amount of preferred project costs, and then expect to claim a grant against a significant amount of preferred project costs, because there just isn't that amount in the application. So you can see there the kinds of things that are preferred: premises, plant and equipment, IT equipment, and so on. Moving on then to another grant scheme which is currently open, and there are two calls open, one closing on Friday the 1st of April and one closing on Friday the 1st of July for outline applications, provided the money isn't all allocated before those dates. So there's a certain fixed pot of money available. There have been 2 rounds of applications open, and there still are 2 more to come, provided all that money isn't allocated. And you can see there the kinds of things that this grant would support. It's aimed at the rural economy, rural businesses. It does cover tourism as well as advanced manufacturing. You can see from the top that the minimum grant size is £35,000, which at the 40% intervention rate means that the minimum project size is £87,500 if I've got my sums right, and that is quite a large amount for a lot of SMEs to access. But nevertheless, there can be some businesses, indeed we have some applications in to this program from businesses who are investing that kind of money. More information from the link at the bottom of the page. Moving on then to LEADER. LEADER is a scheme which is really built on a French model of intervention, and that means it's built from the bottom up. So there are these groups which are called local action groups, or LAGs for short. The area is divided up into the regions that you can see there, the LAG areas on the map. And as I said before, that covers most of Norfolk and Suffolk, but there's a little bit in West Suffolk where there is no LAG group. Applications then are made to the LAG group in 2 stages. One is check for eligibility, and the other then is, assuming eligible, move to the full application phase. And this is to support the national priorities shown on the screen, such as increasing farm productivity, support for micro and small businesses, farm diversification, rural tourism, etc. But each LAG group places a different emphasis on that support, what they want to do in that area. So each LAG has got its own handbook which it defines in more detail how projects should be structured, what projects would be eligible. So the key thing is always to have a look at that and then contact the people in the 2 county councils. In Suffolk it's Gavin Talbot, in Norfolk Paul Mace, and they will help you and guide you through that process. Eastern Agritech Growth Initiative has got 2 schemes, and this is supporting people who are blending together developments in agriculture, food and new technology. So the 2 schemes are the Growth Fund, which helps business growth for things like new products and processes and equipment and things that reduce energy consumption and reduce the amount of waste produced. That's the Growth Fund, 25% of project costs, grants of £10,000. And then the R&D Fund, which supports up to 50% of total project costs with £10,000 to £60,000 grants as well. And that covers feasibility, proof of concept, pre-production prototypes and trials. When I say feasibility, it's feasibility of taking something that's at demonstrator stage forward. Again, Martin Lutman, key point of contact there to find out more and if your project is eligible. So you don't have to be an agricultural business to operate in this. You have to be somebody who's developing some new technology that would apply in that sector, as well as being an agricultural business. Then the new kid on the block is the Business Energy Efficiency Grant, program, which includes an independent expert advice from our colleagues in Groundwork, who will go out and do an energy efficiency audit, understand how you're using energy in the business, and give you pointers to reduce that. They then have a grant scheme that will help people deploy new systems and solutions to reduce their energy consumption, and you will also be eligible to go towards independent accreditation through the Carbon Charter, and there will be online webinars and training sessions. This scheme's just starting up and just getting going, so you can get more information at the www.beanglia.org website. Our next scheme is ETemp, which supports people receiving training. Now, the people receiving training have to be employees, they have to be taxpayers, so it's not suitable for anybody who's a volunteer in an organisation. So as long as you're paying tax, you're eligible to receive this grant. The grant is given to the businesses that's got the employees, and the training has to be delivered by what's called a registered learning provider, an RLP, such that they will provide an invoice for that training. So it doesn't, while it will pay grant for non-accredited training at the bottom, it can't provide a grant for in-house training. It has to be externally provided. So 25% return against invoices paid by the employer for additional training undertaken, up to £1,000. The additional requirement means that it has to be training that's not required by legislation or not required by the person's job description. If it's required by legislation and a job description, then it can't be additional. It's a defined requirement. But if you're wanting to develop people and staff in employment, then this is a grant to look at. The next organisation that provides help to businesses is UKTI, and that helps you export. And as you may be aware, the government has a drive to increase the exporting capability of UK PLC, and UKTI is the organisation charged with doing that. Now, it has little direct grant funding at the moment, but it has several subsidised programmes, including Passport to Export, which is their sort of flagship program, and that provides you engagement with a UKTI International Trade Advisor for 12 months to help you develop your export capability. Now, that doesn't mean you've got somebody sitting with you for 12 months. It means you've got access to them for that period of time, and the agreements between the business and the trade advisor are worked out up front. There is a trade show access program which gives some financial assistance for people to attend overseas trade shows. They are specific trade shows, so it's not just any trade show, they have to be on the list. And then there's Export Savvy, which is an online learning tool which helps you understand the requirements of exporting and getting going. And again, more information from the link at the bottom. So, looking at time, in summary, what we've covered is what a grant is and what isn't. What it isn't, remember, it's not a gift. To get a grant, you have to go through a process to get it awarded. What I've tried to do is bring out the key grants that are currently available that we're aware of, and try to bring out the key constraints. Now, or the key conditions you've got to meet in order to be awarded the grant. It's important to say that in the time available, I've only been able to cover the key elements of the grant. Each grant will have details and detailed requirements, so it's always important to look at the guidance document, and each grant will have a guidance document associated with it. So look at that to make sure you understand what it is that you've got to do in order to get the grant before you apply for it. So read it and look at it in detail. And again, only apply for the grant if it fits with your business strategy. Don't go chasing what you think is free money, because that may take you in the wrong direction for the business. We know that more schemes will be coming along, so if you sign up to our newsletter called The Loop, you'll get the latest funding news and other information for businesses. So go to the website, the newangliagrowthhub.co.uk website, and you can sign up for that, and that gets delivered to you every month electronically. And if you want to unsubscribe at any time, just let us know. You can follow us on Twitter with the @AngliaHub handle. If anything that I've said here is of interest to you and you want to know more, please contact us on the number 0300 333 6536 or email the Growth Hub. We provide a free service, free impartial service to businesses, aiming to help them access the free support and subsidised support that is available in the region. And with that, I will hand back to Alan.
Thank you, William. Yeah, really, really interesting. Hopefully that's made things a bit clearer for you and perhaps debunked some of the myths around grant funding. So that concludes the main presentation, and we will move on to questions. But before we do that, just want to tell you about what we're doing next month. James West, also one of the Growth Hub advisors, will be going into a lot more detail on the Growing Business Fund. I know William touched upon it today, but as he says, there is more to find out about that. So James will be doing it in depth. So if you're interested, then please register for that. And as I said, the link for that is available in the PDF in the handout, which again, hopefully you should be able to see on the right hand side of your screen in the little dashboard box. We move on then to questions. Couple of questions have come in through the chat box here, William. First one from Rahim Ali, who asks about if there are grants available for creating more jobs in the media industry in Norwich. Now, first thing I would say about that is that the grants aren't there to create jobs. The jobs are an output of the grant.
Yeah. Yes, so I think without knowing the specific details, it's hard to answer that. But as Alan says, one doesn't get a grant for creating a job and paying the salary for a period of time. The grant is awarded to businesses that are investing in capital equipment because they are growing, and because they are growing, they are likely to be creating jobs. Now, I guess one of the difficulties for the media industry, the digital creative industry, is that the capital cost of that's associated with employing someone is relatively small, because one can buy a computer, a laptop, and some software, provide a desk and a phone, and that's a relatively low capital investment. The cost really is getting people trained up and being productive, which will take a period of time, and that's a working capital requirement. So if you one suggestion to make is to look at the ETemp program and see if there's any training that those people will be undertaking during that period of time where that grant could help. So I'm afraid that's it at the moment. Coming along soon, there may be other grant schemes that may be more suitable, but we just don't know the details of those at the moment. But when we get them, we can certainly make you available. Make the information available to you.
Okay, thank you, William. I've got a question here from Mark Duffield, so I'm just going to take you off mute, and away you go, Mark. Are you there, Mark? Okay, let's also go to, I've got Mark Taylor as well. I believe you had a question. Can you hear me, Mark? Okay, can't hear Mark, but he did actually type in the question as well, which was about trade shows and whether you can get funding for more than one. I suppose that might be a question for you, KTI. I don't know if we know that if the funding will cover more than one trade show.
Very good question, and apologies, I don't know the answer for that. I think it's only at the minute for one, but it may be within a sort of a basket of costs. So I genuinely don't know. Have we got the email address for Mark, Alan, okay, and we can get back to him with that specific answer.
Okay, I think Mark Duffield might be there. If I press the right button now, that might help. Mark, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Oh,
Yes, lovely.
William can't.
Sorry
So
about
if you tell me what the question is, and I'll tell William, we'll get there in the end.
Yeah, I've got a small joinery business based in Great Yarmouth, and I'm looking for a small grant to progress the joinery company to the next level. Is there anything available within the Great Yarmouth area?
So a small joinery business in Great Yarmouth, and what did you say you needed some help with? Training staff, did you say?
It's not trained. I've got an apprentice at the moment. Basically, we've now signed a deal for a new workshop. Obviously, I need new equipment. So I'll be looking to obviously have funding, see if we can get funding for that, with the potential to work in with Great Yarmouth College to help trainees with work experience.
So funding for new equipment there.
Yeah.
So good question. I think probably for that we'll have a call after this and
Yeah.
go into
Okay. Fine. Lovely.
so okay. So any specific questions related to your business situation? If we can always arrange a call or meeting after this, but certainly welcome any general questions. But thank you very much, Mark. Just gonna have a quick look and see. Do we have any other questions? Emma Finn was asking about the average grant given to businesses. I suppose that depends on the kind of grant, I guess.
I haven't got a figure off the top of my head. I mean, it really depends on the size of the business, the number of jobs that are being created. I know that the LEP has awarded grants up to the £500,000 level in a few cases. Typically, it would be, I guess, round about the, I don't know, £100,000 or thereabouts.
Quite a range, really, then, isn't there?
Yeah.
From the smaller end to the sort of, as you say, the upper end of £500,000. Okay, so just having a look down the list here. Haven't got any other questions in the chat box unless there are any others. Just a comment here from Mark Taylor saying, worth noting that many have used the ETIP scheme and worth the exercise filling out the forms. And I've had a few comments from people saying that it's quite simple, that ETIP form. In fact, just a few weeks ago, somebody completed a form and was approved within a matter of hours. So some of the grants, yes, there is some more paperwork. Some of them are pretty quick.
Yeah, just a comment on the ETIP form. I mean, Mick Beagle, who runs that program, would be very disappointed if he thought that it was costing people a lot of time and money to fill in that form. It's meant to be simple and straightforward, and if anybody on the call thinks it isn't, please just contact Mick and he'll guide you through it, or Patsy. Both of them want to give out money.
and Mick is a straight talker. He will give you a very quick answer. Okay, I haven't got any other questions coming in. Has anybody got anything else that they would like to ask? If so, if you just, as I said, hit that raise your hand button and we'll try and get to you, but I haven't got anything else coming in at the moment. So if that concludes everything, as I said, please do take the handout, PDF, which is in that little box there on the right hand side, and if that's it, then we say thank you very much for joining us. Once again, thank you, Barclays, for enabling the technology for us to be able to present this webinar to you this afternoon. So thank you very much. Enjoy your day, and be in touch with us if you've got any further questions. Thank you.